Please tell me Mr. Ramos is not replacing me as Dr. Doom via Parker Robbins. Is there something you're not telling me? Anyway, I don't want to step on your interview.
Bob Iger makes 400 times what his lowest worker is. And I think that's a shame, Bob.
Spider-Man after Spider-Man Brand New Day will not be in the Avengers film at all. They will not mention him, he's not going to show up, and Tom Holland will not be in the film at all. Details on the clash that happened between two actors on the set of Avengers Doomsday have hit the net, and people believe that they figured out who one or two of these actors might be. One seems to 100% be Robert Downey Jr., but who's the other one? Well, we might know. They're speculating.
Or keep sinking like a stone at the box office. But the real problem for Disney is that their next big bet, Avengers Doomsday, is mired in production trouble behind the scenes, of the kind that is giving Fantastic a run for its money. Kevin Feige is in other words up a creek without.
Please tell me Mr. Ramos is not replacing me as Dr. Doom via Parker Robbins. Is there something you're not telling me? Anyway, I don't want to step on your interview.
Details on the clash that happened between two actors on the set of Avengers Doomsday have hit the net.
It's growing fast that Robert Downey Jr. is having trouble on the set of his new Avengers film with Ryan Reynolds.
Or keep sinking like a stone at the box office. But the real problem for Disney is that their next big bet, Avengers Doomsday, is mired in production trouble behind the scenes, of the kind that is giving Fantastic a run for its money. Kevin Feige is in other words up a creek without a paddle.
Bob Iger makes 400 times what his lowest worker is. And I think that's a shame.
And after Spider-Man Brand New Day will not be in the Avengers film at all. They will not mention him, he's not going to show up, and Tom Holland will not be in the film at all. Now, in regards to why, it seems like that it's more or less because the film doesn't want to account for him, and they didn't want to have a giant mess behind the scenes trying to alter filming.
Report. Now, the tension between the two of them, that's where things get a little wonky. Now, this tension actually came from Jeff Schneider, who he has his own site. I have a history. I don't always believe his stuff, but he has gotten some scoops right. He is one of those scoopers out there, reporters. It's not always into the...
The latest update is that Ryan Reynolds may be seeking revenge of his own. Not on screen, but behind the scenes. Reports claim he told Disney flat out that he refuses to continue working with Robert Downey Jr. on Avengers Doomsday. And for a studio already under fire, that is the last thing they wanted. Think about where Marvel is right now. After the Marvels bombed, Brave New World was pushed back, and Fantastic Four faced backlash before a single frame released. All hopes were pinned on this one movie. But instead of headlines about its massive crossover, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, Black Panther's legacy, and Deadpool himself, the buzz is all about infighting. Downey's return was supposed to be the golden ticket. Disney paid him more than most entire cast combined, betting that his name alone could bring fans back to theaters. But insiders say he demanded full control of Doom's portrayal, even forcing 3 weeks of refilming after rejecting a stand-in. To Marvel executives, he's the untouchable king. To Reynolds, who rebuilt his career from the ashes of Green Lantern and made Deadpool into Marvel's only recent blockbuster, it feels like déjà vu, being sidelined while the studio bows to one man's ego. And that's why fans are framing this as Deadpool's revenge. Reynolds knows what it's like to fight Hollywood politics and win. Now he's facing the exact same corporate machinery inside Disney. His ultimatum, that he won't continue unless things change, is shaking Marvel at its core. Robert Downey Jr.'s return wasn't just a headline. It was a financial gamble that redefined Marvel's entire strategy. Disney reportedly shelled out between $50 and $60 million just to secure him for Avengers Doomsday. To put that into perspective, that's more than the combined salaries of entire superhero ensembles in past MCU projects. And with that kind of paycheck comes leverage. Leverage that Downey has been using aggressively on set. Insiders say the tipping point came when Marvel initially tried to streamline Doom's presence with body doubles and stand-ins. Downey rejected it. After 2 to 3 weeks of filming, he allegedly demanded full reshoots with himself in the suit. The fallout? Tens of millions of dollars wasted, exhausted crews, and production delays that rippled through the entire schedule. For most actors, a move like that would be career-ending. For Downey, it was business as usual, and Disney complied. This is the heart of the problem. Downey isn't just playing Doctor Doom, he's acting as if he owns the production. The studio, terrified of losing the man they marketed as the MCU's savior, has given him unprecedented control. And yet that very control is fueling resentment. For someone like Ryan Reynolds, who built Deadpool on creativity under constraint, watching Marvel bleed money on indulgence feels like a betrayal of everything he fought for. The contrast couldn't be starker. Downey represents Marvel's past, the golden era of Iron Man and Endgame. Reynolds represents its potential future, the only star who's proven he can deliver a hit in the post-Endgame slump. And right now, Disney seems to be signaling that it will sacrifice the future to protect the past. But this clash isn't just about money and control. It's about identity. And the real confrontation started when their very different approaches to filmmaking collided on set. At its core, this feud is about two completely different approaches to filmmaking colliding in the same space. Robert Downey Jr. has built his legacy on precision, perfectionism, and commanding the spotlight. On the Doomsday set, that meant nothing less than complete creative control, whether it was rejecting stand-ins for Doom or pushing for reshoots until every frame matched his standard. That kind of dominance might have worked in Marvel's golden era, when the studio revolved around Iron Man, but in a modern crossover packed with dozens of heroes, it created chaos. Ryan Reynolds, on the other hand, carved his path through the opposite philosophy. Deadpool only succeeded because Reynolds embraced limits. Smaller budgets forced him to get creative, and his irreverent humor thrived under constraint. For him, filmmaking isn't about controlling every detail. It's about letting the raw energy of the character and story shine. That's why audiences connected so deeply with Deadpool. It felt alive, unpredictable, and self-aware. So when these two philosophies collided on Avengers, Doomsday, sparks were inevitable. Reports from insiders suggest the real flashpoint came when a joke from Reynolds, his trademark quick wit, didn't land the way it was intended. What might have been harmless banter escalated into a heated exchange, with the production team scrambling to cool things down. Marvel's response? To reshuffle schedules, restructure scenes, and even consider filming the actors separately. For fans, the optics are brutal. On one side, you have Downey positioned as untouchable, the actor Disney bends over backwards to accommodate. On the other, Reynolds, the man credited with reviving Marvel's box office, being treated as replaceable. And once word leaked, the internet didn't hesitate to frame it as more than a clash of personalities. It became a symbol of Marvel's deeper struggle: indulgence versus innovation, nostalgia versus progress. But the story doesn't end on set. Because the moment these whispers hit social media, the feud transformed from an internal headache into a full-blown public relations nightmare. The moment whispers of a clash between Reynolds and Downey escaped the set, the internet took over. And once that happens, the story stops belonging to the studio. Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit lit up with speculation almost instantly. Memes painted Downey as the untouchable king, while Reynolds was framed as the underdog hero standing up to Marvel's corporate machine. YouTube breakdowns racked up millions of views, dissecting every rumor, every scheduling delay, and every cryptic post from the actors themselves. And here's the key: perception became reality. It didn't matter that outlets later stressed there was no confirmed bad blood. By the time Disney's silence dragged on, fans had already decided the feud was real. Every Day Without a Denial was read as proof. Even neutral comments from the cast fueled new theories. Chris Hemsworth reportedly rapping early as Thor? Fans spun it into a sign of production trouble. Anthony Mackie joking about the cast being too massive to manage? Fans treated it as confirmation that Doomsday was bursting at the seams. The social media wildfire made this more than gossip. It reframed Avengers. Doomsday as not just a movie, but a referendum on Marvel's survival. Instead of talking about plot lines or villains, fans debated egos, contracts, and ultimatums. The "I won't play with him anymore" line spread faster than any official teaser, turning Reynolds into a kind of folk hero for standing up to the system. And that's exactly what terrified Disney executives. Because once fans sense dysfunction, it's almost impossible to rebuild excitement. Marvel wasn't just fighting production delays anymore. It was fighting the narrative that its biggest stars were tearing the comeback film apart from the inside. But the wildfire had another effect too. It brought Deadpool himself into the spotlight in a way Disney couldn't control. To really understand why this rumor hit so hard, you have to look at Deadpool himself. Ryan Reynolds didn't just star in the role, he built it from the ground up. For over a decade, every studio in town dismissed the character as too risky, too niche, too R-rated to ever succeed. Reynolds fought for 11 years, even leaking that infamous test footage in 2014 to force Fox's hand. The result? Deadpool exploded, proving that a foul-mouthed, fourth-wall-breaking anti-hero could not only succeed, but dominate the box office. Now fast forward to today. Deadpool and Wolverine has become Marvel's only true win in the last few years, delivering the kind of cultural hype that Eternals and the Marvels could only dream of. Reynolds knows exactly why that worked, because Deadpool is the outsider. He isn't meant to blend into the Avengers machine. He's meant to mock it, to expose it, to break it down with sarcasm and meta jabs. So imagine Reynolds walking onto the Avengers, Doomsday set, and seeing the exact machine he always pushed against. Bloated budgets, endless reshoots, and a studio bending over backwards to appease one star. That's not just frustrating, that's Deadpool's nightmare scenario, which is why insiders believe Reynolds' pushback wasn't just ego. It was about principle. He doesn't want Wade Wilson watered down into just another cog in Marvel's overcrowded lineup. That's why fans started calling this Deadpool's revenge. The outsider who once mocked superhero cliches is now fighting to protect his own franchise from being absorbed by the same system. The quote, "I won't play with him anymore," isn't just a rejection of Downey's dominance. It's a declaration that Deadpool's voice won't be drowned out by corporate indulgence. But for Disney, this stance creates an impossible dilemma, because now they're trapped between two of their most valuable stars, and whichever side they choose, the fallout could be devastating. And this is where the real crisis begins. Disney has backed itself into a corner, forced to choose between two of its most valuable assets. On one side, Robert Downey Jr., the man whose return as Dr. Doom was sold as the miracle fix for Marvel's box office slump. His face alone sells nostalgia, and Disney has already sunk upwards of $50 to $60 million into his comeback deal. To push him aside now would be admitting that their entire strategy rests on shaky ground. On the other side, Ryan Reynolds, the one actor who's proven he can deliver fresh success when the MCU has struggled to find its footing. Deadpool and Wolverine isn't just a win. It's proof that audiences will still line up for Marvel when the formula feels alive and unpredictable. If Reynolds walks, Disney risks losing the only character that fans credit with reviving interest in the MCU. The parallels to other franchises are impossible to ignore. Think back to Fast and Furious, when the feud between Vin Diesel and The Rock forced Universal to split the franchise into rival projects. Both sides won contracts, but the series lost its cohesion. Disney is staring at the same nightmare, keeping both stars on paper while sacrificing the unity that makes Avengers work. And the costs are spiraling. Every reshoot triggered by Downey's perfectionism adds tens of millions. Every delay tightens the window before release. And all the while, Disney is stuck in silence, terrified to acknowledge the feud publicly because any admission would send investors and fans into panic. It's a lose-lose equation. Protect Downey, and Reynolds could walk. Protect Reynolds, and Downey's ego and his loyal fan base may not forgive it. Either decision risks tearing down the billion-dollar comeback they've been hyping for years. But as bad as the internal standoff looks, the bigger test may be outside the studio gates, because the fans have already made up their minds. If you really want to see how far this feud has traveled, just look at the fans. The moment the "I won't play with him anymore" line leaked, social media turned it into a battleground. Reddit threads ran thousands of comments deep, with one side defending Downey's perfectionism as the mark of a professional, while the other rallied behind Reynolds as the underdog standing up to Marvel's corporate favoritism. On TikTok, the feud became meme fuel overnight. Clips of Downey and Endgame were spliced with Deadpool's most sarcastic moments, framing the clash as inevitable. YouTube breakdowns with titles like Marvel's Civil War, Reynolds versus RDJ began racking up millions of views, sometimes leaning on speculation, but always feeding the narrative that something is fundamentally broken inside Disney's biggest project. And here's the critical point. Perception has already outpaced reality. Even though industry insiders and outlets stress that Reynolds and Downey haven't been confirmed to have any real bad blood, fans didn't buy it. The silence from Disney only deepened suspicion. Every production delay, every whisper about reshoots, even Chris Hemsworth's reported early rap as Thor, fans connected them to the feud. The verdict from the fan base is clear. Marvel is fractured. And whether or not that's true behind the scenes almost doesn't matter anymore. Once the court of public opinion decides a narrative, it sticks. The idea that Disney is bending over backwards to protect Downey while sidelining Reynolds has already become the story. And that story is far more dangerous than any rumor. Because now the question fans are asking isn't, what's the plot of Avengers Doomsday? It's, can Marvel survive its own chaos? But this leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, what all of this means for Marvel's future, and whether Doomsday might actually live up to its name. The ripple effects of this rumored clash aren't contained to Marvel alone. Hollywood is watching closely because Avengers, Doomsday is more than just another superhero movie. It's the single most expensive experiment in modern cinema. With a cast stacked from every corner of the MCU, a release date pinned on the holiday season of 2026, and a budget that insiders whisper could climb past $400 million. Any sign of weakness on set becomes a warning signal for the entire industry. Studios have seen what happens when ego clashes spill into production. Think about Warner Brothers during the Justice League reshoot chaos, or Universal navigating the Vin Diesel-The Rock feud. Both franchises survived, but not without scars. For Disney, the stakes are even higher. The MCU isn't just one franchise among many, it's the crown jewel, a universe that's grossed nearly $30 billion at the global box office. If cracks show here, investors start to question whether the superhero model itself is sustainable. And this is where Reynolds versus Downey takes on symbolic weight. Reynolds represents a path forward, creative risk-taking, humor, and meta-commentary that speaks to modern audiences. Downey represents the past, a golden era of Marvel dominance built on nostalgia and the Iron Man legacy. The industry is asking which one Disney will choose, because that choice could define not just Marvel's future, but the trajectory of the entire superhero genre. Insiders say rival studios are already taking notes. Warner Brothers, with James Gunn's DC reboot, is positioning itself as the leaner, more cohesive alternative. Sony continues to push its Spider-Verse strategy, betting on animated innovation and multiversal experimentation. If Disney fumbles Doomsday, the balance of power could shift permanently. In other words, this isn't just a Marvel feud, it's a Hollywood turning point. At the end of the day, whether Ryan Reynolds truly told Disney executives, "I won't play with him anymore," or whether the story has grown larger through rumor, the perception has already reshaped the conversation. Instead of headlines celebrating Marvel's ambitious crossover, the focus is on egos, reshoots, and ultimatums. And for a studio already reeling from financial misses and fan fatigue, that is a narrative it can't afford to lose control of. Marvel once prided itself on being the gold standard of blockbuster storytelling, disciplined, interconnected, and carefully managed. But the past few years have told a different story. The Marvels falling short, Eternals failing to capture culture, Fantastic Four already facing skepticism, and Ironheart stuck in delay limbo. Avengers. Doomsday was supposed to be the comeback, the proof that the MCU could still unite audiences on a massive scale. Instead, it now risks becoming the ultimate example of how fragile the franchise has become. And that's the chilling part. Fans aren't just asking who the villain of the movie is, they're asking if Marvel itself has lost the plot. Robert Downey Jr. represents the past, Ryan Reynolds represents the future, and Disney seems paralyzed in the middle, unable to choose without risking collapse. So maybe the real Doomsday isn't on screen at all. Maybe it's behind the scenes, where unchecked egos, corporate panic, and mounting fan skepticism are threatening to undo everything Marvel built over the last 15 years. If the studio can't fix this perception, then the most dangerous villain facing the MCU isn't Doctor Doom, or Kang, or any character. It's Marvel's own inability to control the chaos within. And that leaves fans with one unsettling question. Is this the movie that saves Marvel, or the one that finally proves its Doomsday has arrived?